Every franchise we love is inevitably doomed. I'd like to take a minute to talk about the recent failures of not just Star Wars, but Game of Thrones, Doctor Who, Star Trek, and a dozen other beloved IPs. I'd like to discuss how these failures affected us as an audience, and about how we as consumers need to change our mindset or risk losing every single franchise we've ever loved. First off, I haven't had a day off in like 2 months. On top of my normal 40-hour-a-week job, I'm working 15 hours a week clearing out our warehouse at the nonprofit. That's my second job. So basically, I've been coming home and falling down in exhaustion every single day. So I'm doing this video podcast style because unfortunately, that's just all the time and energy that I've got to spare right now. So we've entered a very odd time in the ongoing history of filmmaking. The past 15 years have seen tons of beloved stories that have very disappointing endings, sequels, adaptations, or reboots. And unfortunately, it seems like fans aren't mentally equipped to deal with the disappointment. Exactly why, I'm not sure. Probably many factors, but I'd guess the main issue being our collective, rapidly decreasing attention spans, combined with the absolutely massive output of new content. If a show disappoints us in any way, there's 36 competitors per streaming service that we can immediately switch to. The problem is, every show we love will eventually disappoint us. Every story we love will eventually have a franchise-breaking, badly written entry. And this claim isn't even hypothetical. We've already seen it happening consistently for the past decade. In fact, nearly every blockbuster film series and TV show has been quote-unquote ruined at one point. Harry Potter. Many people thought that the addition of The Cursed Child, the official, unofficial book number 8, did several things that ruined previous storyline. Many people thought that the Fantastic Beasts entries have done things that retroactively ruined previous storyline. Game of Thrones. We had 7 seasons of really well-made story, building up the walkers that we got no payoff for. 7 seasons building up the North versus the South with no payoff. 7 seasons building up Khaleesi and Jon being the king and queen that the country needed, with no payoff. In fact, the ending was so bad that it just completely tarnished the entire series. Then we have Star Wars, where all of the main characters were torn down in the sequel trilogy. All the victories were reversed, pretty much negating the original and prequels. In Lord of the Rings, many fans thought that the Hobbit prequels were huge disappointments. In The Matrix, the first one was amazing, but parts 2 and 3 really disappointed many fans. The fights in the first film had character-driven purpose. The fights in the second film especially had little to no weight to them. They felt more like they were solely for showing off the special effects. Then we have Star Trek with the J.J. Abrams reboot. Many fans hated what he changed with Vulcan, with the Spock-Kirk storyline. Even Khan's reboot was utterly wasted. Then another hugely popular series, Battlestar Galactica. They rebooted that in, the early 2000s? And it was amazing right up until the very last episode, which was just so nonsensical that it ruined everything that came before it. Same thing with Lost, one of the most popular TV shows ever, with an ending that was so bad it also ruined the entire series. Then, very recently, we have Doctor Who, which is the longest running TV show of all time, but the last episode that came out basically destroyed the entire lore that we've had up until this point. And there's so many other examples. Fans waited years to have a live-action Airbender, but it butchered the story and the characters. Same with Aragon, same with Golden Compass, Mortal Engines, the Mortal Instruments. Fan favorites like Green Lantern, Justice League, Batman, Superman. We've seen the DC fandom get crushed time and time again with so many badly written versions of these beloved heroes. Just in the past 15 years, 9 of the top film franchises of all time have been quote-unquote ruined. And what is people's reaction? Many fans just give up. They face their first major disappointment in the franchise and throw in the towel. Now, in my video along this same topic, explaining that Star Wars isn't dead, I got a comment that I want to read. This guy commented and said, "It doesn't matter how you look at it, the story is still ruined, and nobody wants to be a part of this franchise anymore." And I responded, "If you don't like Star Wars, why are you looking at a Star Wars video on a Star Wars dedicated channel?" And his response was that it was just recommended to him and he happened to click on it because he was interested. However, he was so disappointed. He's not even a hardcore fan. He said that he's just an average guy, but he was so disappointed with the sequels that he actually got rid of all the Star Wars merchandise that he owned and completely has let go of the franchise as an average fan. And I found that really, really interesting because up until now, I've only seen the really hardcore fans have that reaction. But assuming he's telling the truth, and there's no reason really for him to lie in this situation, he's just an average person watching the movies maybe once or twice, yet he was so negatively affected by the sequels that he decided to completely give up on the entire franchise. Now, obviously, he's entitled to his opinion. Obviously, many fans so hated Jake Skywalker, they'd rather forget the franchise existed. But where did this absolutist mindset come from? Why have we as consumers gotten in the mindset that we have to absolutely love every new installment of a franchise or we can no longer be fans? I've been trying to figure out the reason for a while, and I think most of us never learned to develop the coping mechanism that I'm going to describe as acceptance of the bad. We as consumers of film seem to have a very common reaction when we see a poor portrayal of our hero. We flatly refuse to acknowledge their existence, or that they or the film had any redeeming qualities whatsoever. Likewise, I'm positive many of the hardcore sequel defenders have the same mindset. They also never developed the ability to accept the bad. They simply can't acknowledge that anything they deeply love has flaws, because that would diminish its quality. The Star Wars sequel trilogy was inarguably flawed in many ways, but very, very few people are capable of acknowledging the bad while simultaneously enjoying the good. The unfortunate reality of the situation is that the problem is being misinterpreted. People say if the filmmakers had just done X, Y, and Z, then it would have been great. But the problem isn't actually the film. The problem is us as an audience. Yes, we expect quality, and as paying customers, we deserve it a majority of the time. But even our favorite restaurants get orders wrong. Even our favorite musicians put out tracks we don't like. And even our favorite film franchises will eventually put out movies that disappoint us. And it's our responsibility as consumers to learn to segregate the bad from the good and to communicate those reactions to the creators so that they can correct going forward. Because like I said, every single franchise that we love is inevitably doomed. Eventually, everything will get a sequel or a remake, which will tarnish our perception and love for the original. We as viewers must learn to accept when a franchise fails, either temporarily or even long-term. We must be able to accept the bad exists and continue loving the good, or we will inevitably lose every single franchise we ever loved. Thanks for listening, my friends. Please subscribe and share this. I would love to be able to produce content for you full-time, but I've got a very long road ahead of me to get to that point. I'm still writing my character analysis of Finn, and I've got 2 other scripts finished waiting for editing when I can find time. So be sure to subscribe and stick around. I can't upload consistently right now, but I'm working on content as often as I can, especially for the patrons who I've got supporting me. Thanks so much for being here, everyone, and I'll see you next time.